Hey fitness folks, Eric at the Fitness CPA, going to do a Q&A today on everything CARES Act related and a few other odds and ends thrown in with employees. Really hoping you get some value out of this. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Eric Killian, CPA and founder of the Fitness CPA. Just trying to get you guys answers during COVID-19 and everything that's going on. If you have more, throw them our way. We're just helping people as much as we can during this time. We're not looking for anything. We're not looking for money at this time. But you know, in the future, you know, if you need accounting needs, tax services, advisory work, building a new location, you know, we're your people. But in the meantime, just hit us up with questions and we're going to hit you up with answers to get you through this craziness. So let's dig right in. We'll just get right to the kind of Q&A section regarding everything PPP related, EIDL, government, contractors, employees. And I'll jump right in. These were great questions that were submitted. Really appreciate you guys reaching out and looking for help. That's what we want to do. We have our app in for PPP, but we haven't received the funds. Should I also apply for EIDL or the employer tax credit thing? Good question, right? We want to be going in as many directions as possible to get as much help as possible. The PPP funds should be coming. So you have your application in, presumably with your bank, and the funds should be arriving here. We're hoping with this coming week, maybe the following. And should you apply for EIDL? Yes, I would apply for EIDL. Now, let's remember the EIDL is used for a different purpose. The EIDL funds are a little bit more working capital, and they cannot be overlap purposes. So if you have money you get from PPP that is going to be used for salaries and wages, you can't use the same salaries and wages for your EIDL. You have to pay for something different. Now, you can pay for wages and then, you know, 8 weeks from now, you can run out of the PPP money and then use EIDL. You can use EIDL for rent, for other utilities, as long as they're not the same thing. You essentially can't double count them. The employer tax credit thing, that's the employer retention tax credit, also called the ERC or ERTC. That employer tax credit cannot be combined currently with PPP or EIDL the way the law is currently written. It's really meant for businesses who are keeping employees on staff. We would encourage you to do the math and figure out, you know, is employer tax credit better than PPP? We're really not finding a ton of wins with the employer tax credit, especially with fitness businesses and especially with fitness businesses who are closed. That's what we're finding. We've applied for EIDL, but we haven't received our funds yet. Do you know what is going on? If I did, nobody knows what's going on. But what we do know is that the Federal Reserve rushed out this program. The majority of applications that came in were preliminary forms, and the banks didn't know what to do with them even once they had their forms open. And now some money is starting to trickle out. We did hear of a few people getting funds late this past week on Thursday and Friday, and then this coming week we're expecting a big rollout. So, you know, I would be courteous, be nice to your banker, your accountant, your lender, whoever you're working with, but I would expect this coming week we'll see a flush of money come through. Depending on when you're watching that, this is be the week of the 13th to the 17th, and certainly I would say if you don't see funds by the week of the 20th, 24th, something's going on there. You should look into it. What is the proper way to temporarily lay employees off and collect unemployment until we reopen again? Yeah, you know, I think you need to rely on your HR professionals if you have one, if you have a franchisor group, you know, leaning on their HR network. But it really is as simple as sending them a written notice. I do think it should be written. And if you have employee status reports, you know, generally we have one-pagers on people to signify a hiring, a termination, a layoff. You know, you're going to have an internal record of why that person was let go. That way down the road, you know, that they'd be happy to rehire them and keep them on staff again. But a simple written notice, I do, you know, don't recommend kind of texting people and saying, by the way, you're fired. You know, it should be a conversation. You should let them know, you know, exactly what's going on. I would think normally in a termination where somebody's not going to be welcome back, we don't generally give a lot of details. We're saying, look, you're not welcome back, you know, things aren't going well, and you really don't give them the details. In this situation, if we want people back, we probably should be super courteous, and I think being transparent could be helpful. That's my nature, is to, you know, just kind of be transparent and lay the cards out on the table. However, an HR professional may be a little bit more, have a little bit more guidance here from a legal perspective so that you don't get in a tough spot down the road. But I don't think there's anything wrong with just saying, hey, We've got to, kind of temporarily let you go. We're waiting for the PPP money to come in. We're waiting to reopen. Go please claim and collect unemployment. And then when that unemployment comes in, we've got a blog post on it about what you're supposed to do when that unemployment claim does come in from the state. We are on mandated shutdown until April 30th. So when we reopen, I am to use the funds as described. If and when I get the funds, what happens if we have to stay closed longer and it goes past 8 weeks? Really, really good question. And we can't use it in time to meet the deadline. So let's answer the first question first. Currently, the way the law is written, if you don't use those funds by within the 8-week time period, the 8-week time period, by the way, is determined as the date that the funds hit your account. So, if you're getting them on Monday, it's 8 weeks from Monday. If you're getting them on Friday, it's 8 weeks from Friday, whatever that 8-week date is. And correct, if you don't use the funds for payroll, then they aren't going to be forgiven. It's going to be a loan, and you'll have to pay it back as the law is currently written. I would imagine if this thing gets stretched out, into June at all, like even in the first week of June, they may extend this. Purely speculation, definitely not in the laws right now, but whatever percentage you don't use for payroll wages gets converted into a loan, and then that loan will have to be repaid at 1% interest over a period of 2 years. That's currently how the law is written. So yeah, totally a conundrum, right? It's like, I can answer your question and tell you what it is, but this is a pickle, guys. This is a problem. If you don't reopen, you get this PP money, and what are you going to do? Like, it's really frustrating. So what we're directing people and what we're guiding, this is where our advisory services come in. This is why most clients that we work with lean on us so much during anything involving the government or finances. This is where we come in. What we need to be doing is strategizing in a couple of different ways. One is if there's a way to bring on staff by June 30th, there's a provision where as long as they're brought on by June 30th, we meet the headcount requirement. If I'm bringing staff on really close to that June 30th or that end of the 8-week time period is maybe what I should have said, then we could look at prepaying staff if you trust them. We can look at prepaying managers. We can look at potentially prepaying owners. There's no prohibition of that at this time. I'm recording this on Sunday, April 12th. So we're going to get guidance. We're going to get more direction on what we can and can't use the funds for. The IRS has another 2 weeks roughly to provide us with that guidance, and so it should be forthcoming. But we're imagining some strategies here where we can pay out these salaries really close to the end of that 8-week time period and get a good chunk of this money forgiven so that we don't have to pay it back. But yeah, this is where, I think, every dollar you plan, if you plan to strategize to get $1,000 paid out or $10,000 or $20,000 paid out before the end of the period, that's money that you don't have to pay back. So that could be a huge win. Also, do we run this through payroll like normal? Yes, you do, through your payroll processor, please. We only got gross payroll money, so they only got the gross money that you pay to the employees and not the payroll tax money. So even though we get this, do we still pay taxes on it? Unfortunately, yes. That's really where the government stands. They don't want you to be borrowing money from the government or getting money for free to then turn around and pay them taxes, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. Now, let's take into consideration the taxes that we do pay are going to be 6.2% Social Security, 1.45% Medicare. Together, that's 7.65%. And then additionally, you'll have potentially a little bit of unemployment tax for your state as well. Maybe you have some SDI, some disability. But at the end of the day, it's probably about 10%. So even if you're getting $40,000 for wages and you have to pay 10%, you got to pay $4,000 in payroll taxes. That's still a pretty good deal all in all. Should I apply for EIDL? Yes. Yes, you should apply for EIDL now. Now that once you have your PPP application in, I'm recommending you apply for EIDL money. If you have not received your PPP money, there'll be a box. There should be a box on the EIDL application that says, we received our PPP money. And then in that instance, you would not want to go for the $10,000 grant. It's kind of an either or, the PPP or the grant. If you do receive the grant and you already have PPP money, they're just going to knock $10,000 or however much grant you received off of the forgiven amount of the PPP loan. If you have specific questions on that, let me know. I know that one's a bit of a mouthful. And yeah, I would apply for EIDL at this point. What employer-paid payroll taxes can be included in payroll costs? We've got unemployment paid by the employer, local taxes paid by the employer, any additional employer-paid taxes, SDI, SDI, state disability in California, something like EMAT in the state of Massachusetts. Let's go down to the next one here. Can these funds be used for payroll cost that we have now? So yeah, the forgivable amount is calculated to 8 weeks from the date the loan is funded. So if you have payroll now, as in today, and you don't have your PPP money back, then those costs are not going to be included in the PPP calculation. If you have EIDL money, it could be for that, but I don't know anybody that's gotten EIDL money yet. So no, if you don't have payroll. So there's a bit of strategy and planning here. It's like, well, gosh, if we know we're going to get the PPP money any day and payroll is going to be due this week, maybe you postpone payroll a couple of days. That's what I would be thinking about. That's what I'm going to be advising my clients to do, because we're expecting the PPP money to come in any day now. How do you determine full-time equivalency of part-time workers for these programs? It's not fully determined yet, and we're awaiting on guidance, but we understand they're going to be using the Affordable Health Care, the ACA definition of an average of 30 hours per week. So if somebody's working more than 30 hours, that's one full-time person. It just equals one headcount. If they're working less than 30 hours, then we add them up and we divide by 30. So 2 15-hour employees would count as one full-time equivalent. 3 10-hour employees would count as one full-time equivalent, so forth and so on. If I had to shut down, can I still apply for PPP when I reopen? Yes, you definitely can, but the funds may not be available. As long as you were operational by February 15th, you can apply. The applications for PPP are supposed to be open through June 30th. However, these funds are slated to run out. So I would not delay. I would, gosh, it's really tough. It's like if you apply now and you get the funds, then you're not open. And so what do you do with the funds? Or wait and then apply and potentially closer to reopen. But then at that point, maybe there won't be funds available. I would just apply. I would just get the cash personally. But I could see how some people would want to wait. Worst case scenario is you get the cash and then you pay it back and it's a loan. Can I apply for PPP directly on the SBA website if I don't have a lender? No, you must go through an SBA 7A bank. Only the SBA does the EIDL loans, and some companies have had success going to a company called Lendio, Lendio. I'm not affiliated with them. I know nothing about them. I just know that they are an intermediary that has offered to connect folks with SBA lenders for the PPP money. Lendio is an agent, so they're going to be in the middle of the transaction and get you to someone who can get you the money. But first, I would check with your bank. I would check with anyone that you've banked with in the past. I would check with your local banks and promise them, hey, I'll move over all my money. I'll move over my accounts. Can you get me a PPP loan? And let's think about this from the bank's perspectives. There's a lot of demand and they're having a hard time keeping up with this. So they're going to be loyal to their current customers first, which kind of makes sense, but is totally frustrating. What's even more frustrating is banks like Wells Fargo, who even if you bank with them, if you don't have a lending relationship with them, they're not allowing you to apply at this time. And that's really frustrating. What 12-month period do we report the average payroll for? All of 2019 or 12 months back from when we take the loan? It depends on the lender at this point. We don't have official guidance. We've seen any 12-month period starting from January of 2019 through February of 2019. So what that means is it could be January of 2019 through December as a 12-month period, the whole year. That makes sense. It could be February of 2019 through January of 2020. Okay. It could be February of 2000 and excuse me, I said that one. It could be March of 2019, all the way through February of 2020, which kind of makes sense because the COVID-19 started affecting businesses in March. So a lot of people won't want to include March, and then we've even seen some banks do from April of 2019 through February of 2020. It depends on your bank. What we're advising our clients is, if absent guidance from your bank otherwise, pick the 12 months that results in the largest loan, because you want to get the most amount of money possible. Even if later calculations show that they're going to use a different time period, you want to apply for the most amount. And then if you have to pay it back, that's the worst case. It's a 1% loan at a really great rate. As an employer, is my salary covered in PPP? Yes, it is. It's also covered in EIDL. So if you're getting funds, then they can be used to pay owner salary. Can we do PPP if we already laid off some employees or cut some of their hours and they are partially laid off? Yes, you can. They will ask for proof in the, sorry, I think I went to the wrong one here. Yeah, so can I do PPP if I've already laid off some employees or cut some of their hours and they're partially laid off? Yes. We are going to have two different requirements to meet. We're going to have a head count requirement, and we're also going to have a dollar value requirement. We're awaiting that guidance, but if you've laid off employees and you're even partially staffed, then some of your PPP loan is going to be forgiven, which is great. And then presumably if you bring on some of those employees by the end of June or the end of your 8-week period, then we should be able to have more of that PPP money forgiven. Again, here I'm kind of strategizing. If you are at a lower staffing level, you may prepay some people, you may pay some owner salaries, you may pay some bonuses, you may rehire staff back and prepay them leading up to the end of that 8-week period. How will the banks know if I use the funds for things other than payroll? Yeah, they're going to ask for proof of everything. They're going to ask for payroll documents, utility bills, rent. They're going to want to know where every dollar is spent. So there's really not going to be a way to get around this. We believe they're going to really dot their I's and cross their T's and make sure that these funds were used for the purposes possible. What qualifies as utilities? We are waiting on more guidance. The official list is a service that has a distribution of electricity, gas, water, or transportation, telephone or internet access for which the service began before February 15th. What is transportation? We're awaiting guidance there, but certainly we have clients who have vehicles in the business, they've got leases, they've got gas, repairs and maintenance for their automobiles. They would hope that this is included in the transportation umbrella. We'll keep you updated on that. That's the one that we're really hoping to get some guidance on. Can you include 1099 independent contractors in the payroll calculations? No, there was some initial guidance that they could be included, but subsequent guidance from the IRS and the U.S. Treasury frequently asked questions made it absolutely clear that 1099 contractors could not be included in the payroll calculation, since the contractors could apply for the PPP loans themselves, which, by the way, they're eligible as of Friday, April 10th, so they can start applying on their own now. But banks are still asking for these amounts. They're still asking for the 1099 contractor amounts. So, some are, some aren't, but your mileage may vary. I think this really misses the understanding of the gig economy, it is what it is. And if your bank asks for contractors, go ahead and give them to them, get the larger loan amount, and then be aware that when they do the forgiveness calculations in 8 weeks, I'm fairly certain that those independent contractor monies that you borrowed will need to be paid back and they won't be forgiven. However, who knows? This landscape is changing very rapidly. For my clients who did have independent contractors on their bank's application, they applied for it. They're like, look, give me the money, let's sort it out later. And the worst case scenario is you get a 1% loan, you pay it back in 2 years. What if we reduce our staff before COVID-19? We're waiting on guidance on this, but I think it's a great question. We have people who have already downsized or become more efficient going into the 2020 year. It's likely what's going to happen is you're going to borrow based on that prior amount, and part of your PP money probably is not going to be forgiven, and it's going to be that 1% loan. So you could always borrow less and try to equate your current payroll cost, but we're really advising that you take the full amount and then you strategize to use it on payroll as best as possible, using, again, some of those methods we discussed, paying salaries to managers, to owners, prepaying staff. And I hesitate to mention this one. We haven't mentioned it yet before, but potentially employing family members. We're not sure what the guidance says. We certainly don't want to do anything illegal or shifty, but push comes to shove. If it's in the boundaries of the law, we want to take advantage and not have to repay that money. I just went to the SBA website to apply for the $10,000 grant for my own business. I did not see where you could apply for the EIDL loan. I just checked the box for the $10K advance, and no place on the application that I see where you put in for the additional the amount of the loan. And that's what we're seeing. Nobody has guidance. Everybody sent in the EIDL application. We've heard rumors that they're going to cap these at $25,000 per loan, which would be just terrible for businesses that need this money. However, right, we've not heard back, unfortunately. Everybody's been radio silent from the SBA. We have heard of the $10,000 getting funded. We have also heard of the $10,000 being recalculated. They're saying that they had so much demand that it's now going to be $1,000 per employee up to a maximum of 10,000, which is directly contradictory to what we've been hearing over the last 2 weeks and could be a big game changer for your plan of going PPP versus EIDL. And if you're picking one of those avenues, we're awaiting more guidance. We have heard these rumors. We have seen emails come back from the SBA where this seems to be indicated, but there is no place on this application for the loan amount. Just apply and then wait to hear back. And then when we get more news, we'll certainly keep everybody up to date. Please follow our content. If you're getting value out of the stuff that we're putting out here, smash that like button, follow us on Facebook. If you can leave us a Facebook or Google review, that's awesome. But we're really just here to help. So hit us up via email with another question and we'll answer it next time around. Thank you so much. Take care.